Alright, this video is going to cover chapters 1 and 2 of your crime prevention textbook. Alright, chapter 1, the fear of crime. So the introduction is, and really quickly, I don't read over every single PowerPoint, and the PowerPoints are just some of the main items that I want you to focus on in the textbook. You're still required for the other items in the chapters for each week that you're required to read that I don't cover in the PowerPoint. And test items can come not only from the PowerPoints, but from your reading as well. So make sure you're conducting your reading. A lot of times I might tell you you can pause here during the video and read through the PowerPoint on your own because I'm not going to just read the PowerPoints directly. I'll just note the main important points as if we were in class. All right, so crime is an indisputable fact of life for many. There's a lot of people that are victimized and are fearful of crime and victimization, and some that haven't had or been a victim of a crime and are still fearful. And that fear has consequences on ourselves and our community. And the ability of the criminal justice system to single-handedly alleviate fear of crime and crime occurring is seriously questioned. All right, the problem of crime. So there's ways that we measure them. One is, and I've given you links to these, is called the UCR. The UCR is only part 1 and part 2 crimes. So part 1 crimes are your violent crimes, your murder, rape, robbery, assault, property crimes, burglary, larceny, auto theft, and arson. Your part 2 crimes are all other crimes that are not included in the computations and reported crime rates. The UCR data is more than a little less than 10 million index crimes. Has almost 1.2 million personal crimes and over 8.6 million property offenses. Those are a burglary, that is a theft from your vehicle, that is a theft from a store. Those are things that don't involve a person, obviously. All right. Next, problems with UCR. It's voluntary. A lot of police departments do give their crime rates to UCR, and a lot of federal grants are tied to it. But if an individual police officer doesn't make a report for whatever reason, or if a victim of a crime doesn't report the crime, it's not going to be recovered through the UCR index. So when you see how many crimes are going on, just know it's not always a true indication because of various things. All right, in 1967, we began doing what was called victimization surveys, and it started the NCVS, which is the National Crime Victimization Survey. And again, there's a link for this, and it's basically a survey of households to kind of see what's going on outside of what the police report, what's not being reported. So trends reveal that there are decreasing victimization levels with the great reductions in violent crime over the past decade. So here's just one such thing where you can look at the different data rates for violent crimes. They're in your book and you can look them up. And if you're going to be doing any research, you have done research, you've seen a lot of these rates as well. All right, the cost of crime, it's really expensive. A lot of people don't think about it, but the NCVS says that victims experience over $17 billion in direct loss from crimes. In 2006, almost 28% of victims sustained a physical injury from crime, 14% needed medical care, 5% needed hospital care. Crime has a wide range of additional costs as well. The criminal justice system, your police, your judges, your victim advocates, medical costs, intangible costs, pain and suffering. If you've ever been a victim of a crime or even a burglary, you know what it's like, and you can't put a cost on what that costs you when somebody breaks into your house. All right, there's been a number of different studies out there that estimate that the annual cost from 10 types of crimes to be about $450 billion. There's another estimation at $1.7 trillion. So we all know that crime costs a lot. And then here's another table that really shows you for the different offenses of murder, rape, what it costs the victims, the CCJ system, careers, all that kind of stuff. All right, now we have the definition of fear. So I'll let you pause here to look at the definition of fear. And here is level and perception as far as cognitive and affective as far as how it affects our judgments, values, and emotions. And you can pause here to read through these. All right, so how do we measure fear? Well, there's a number of surveys. The NCVS asks, how do you feel, do you feel safe in your neighborhood? There's other surveys and there's Gallup polls that are looking at trying to measure fear. And the results of those show that 40 to 50% of the population express some type of fear. And you can pause this if you want, but it's a really, scary to look at how many people are fearful of some type of crime occurring to them. All right, levels of fear. So who's really scared? The victimization surveys have found that really elderly and females, because they have great physical disadvantages and because elderly are socially isolated, that they actually have a higher level of fear. All right, then these studies looked at the benefits of fear. That it could be looked at as positive because there's what's called functional fear, where it provides an individual to use it as motivation to take precautions. For example, if you walk out to your car and you're on the phone and you don't have your keys ready after you're done shopping, and you're never fearful, that's never going to help you be more safe and have a motivation to put your phone down, have your keys ready, and walk with a purpose to your car so you don't be a victim. There's a couple other things here talking about benefits of fear if you want to pause to look through. All right, we're going to go on. So that's about the important things of chapter number 1. I'm going to go on and move on to chapter number 2 in this same video. All right. Sorry, I started from the bottom. Okay. Chapter number 2, we're into crime prevention. So, crime prevention through the ages. This goes back to 1900 BC in the Code of Hammurabi. It was outlined retribution by the victim. It was really called the Blood Wars. It was an eye for an eye, and it killed huge generations of families because it never ended. One family member would kill another and kill another. Then in England, 1066, there was an obligatory form of avocational citizen policing where male citizens were required to band together into groups for the purpose of policing each other. You had watch and ward systems. In 1285, you had the Statutes of Winchester, again, required men to have weapons available for use. You had vigilante movements in the U.S., and you also had the Metropolitan Police in London in 1829, and the key idea was crime prevention. Modern crime prevention looks at changes in the crime since the 60s, that there has been an increase in crime and delinquency and large-scale social unrest. There's been a number of different architectural interests. For example, in the 60s, Jacobs was the death and life of a great American cities. In 1971, you had crime prevention through environmental design, or CPTED, and you are all going to be doing a CPTED review. I'm so excited for you to learn about that in week 2. In 1972, very famous Newman's Defensible Space, People and Design in the Violent City. You can pause to read through that. And then the results of that were Neighborhood Watch, Take a Bite Out of Crime, Citizen Patrols, and Lightning Projects. Your book goes into more details about these. Then in 83, you had the situational crime prevention, which was from the British Home Office, refocused attention from broad societal, social, community change to target time and place specific efforts. So since the 60s, there's been a growing movement to bring the citizenry back to active participants in crime prevention. I also like to call it community policing, where it's not just the police that respond to solve crime and engage in crime prevention, it is the whole community along with the police. All right, defining crime prevention, you can pause here to read a definition. There's also a class working definition, and you should also understand that crime prevention and crime control are not synonyms. Crime control alludes to the maintenance of a given or existing level and the management of that amount of behavior, where control also fails to adequately address the problem of the fear of crime, which we talked about in chapter 1. All right, crime prevention classifications. You have the public health model, and we talk about 3 different preventions, and you do need to remember these. You have primary prevention, which identifies condition of the physical and social environment that provides opportunities for or precipitate criminal acts. So that's your environmental design, neighborhood watch, general deterrence, private security, education. Your second one is secondary prevention. That engages in early ID of potential offenders. So it's happening prior to the commission of the illegal activity. And third is tertiary prevention, which deals with the actual offenders and involves intervention in such a fashion that they will not commit further offenses. All right, so that public health model is huge. And then you have some other alternate classifications that I'll let you pause here and read through each one. All right, that ends chapter 2. We'll see you next week. Make sure you review all your links on Moodle.